Greetings! Mantaray79 here, and I'm back with another deck profile video for the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game. In today's video, the deck profile I'm going to be doing one for is V standard formats, Kageros, Dragonic Overlord the Cross with Dragonic Overlord the Rebirth and Dragonic Overlord the End. Alrighty then, let's get started. First off, the starting unit. The starting unit, grade 0, Lizard Soldier Conroe. Starting unit, grade 0, Lizard Soldier Conroe. Like any other starting unit in the V standard format, he features mainly one skill. When ridden on top of, you get to draw a card, and if you're the second to rise to grade 1 during the fight, you may also add a quick shield to your hand. And with that, you just about covered the deck's starting unit. Next, let's get on to the grade 1 lineup. And now for the grade 1 lineup. For the great ones in this deck, we have 4 Lava Flow Dragons, 4 Flame of Hope Airmos, and 4 Calamity Tower Wyverns. The Great One, Lava Flow Dragon, its skills are: the first skill, when ridden or called, you may check the top 5 cards of your deck for a grade 3 and add it to your hand. If a grade 3 was added to your hand by this unit's skill, you must then discard 1 card from your hand as a cost. So with this first skill, it's more or less a basic grade 3 searcher skill, since to help you secure a grade 3 to ride with for your when it's time to rise to grade 3, or to help you get extra grade 3s in your hand for any specific reasons you want to have additional grade 3s for. And the second skill of Lava Flow Dragon is a Vanguard or a Rear Guard. During your turn, if you have more Rear Guards than your opponent, then it gets plus 5,000 power. With this second skill, as long as you can clear out your opponent's Rear Guards and have enough Rear Guards of your own, Lava Flow can then serve as either a 13,000 power attacker from the front row or a 13,000 power booster from the back row. The Great One, Flame of Hope Airmo. In my opinion, it's a must-have for all Kagero decks in the V standard format, since he's one of the few Kagero cards in the V standard format that can countercharge. His skills are: the first skill, as a rear guard, when boosting, he gets plus 3,000 power till the end of the battle. With this first skill, it more or less makes Airmo a 11,000 power booster from the back row. And the second skill, as a rear guard, during your turn, whenever your opponent's rear guard is retired, you may retreat Airmo from your rear guard. If the cost has been paid, you may then countercharge 1 and draw 1. So this skill is a good way to restock your counterblast and also to get an extra card in your hand, as long as you can wipe out your opponent's rear guards with an effect or an attack. And the Great One, Calamity Tower Wyvern. Despite having only 7,000 power himself, his skill more or less makes up for it. Its skill is, as a rear guard, by soul blasting 1 and retreating Calamity Tower from your rear guard. If the cost has been paid, during your turn, your Vanguard gets plus 15,000 power till the end of the turn. So, like I said before, despite having slightly less power than most other great ones in the V standard format, this skill more or less makes up for it, since it gives your Vanguard a huge power boost for a mere soul blast of 1, making it a good card to use for Vanguards that specialize in multiple attacks like the Dragonic Overlord series. And with that, we just about covered the deck's grade 1 lineup. Next, let's get on to the grade 2 lineup. And now for the grade 2 lineup. For the grade 2s in this deck, we have 4 Ignorant Dragons, 4 Turret Cannon Dragons, and 3 Prowling Dragon Strikins. The grade 2 Ignorant Dragon. Its skills are: the first skill, when ridden or called, you may check the top 7 cards of your deck for Dragonic Overlord the Cross. If the cross is successfully revealed, you may add it to your hand. And the second skill of Ignorant Dragon, as a rear guard, whenever your Vanguard attacks, if you have 4 or less cards in hand, during the turn, Ignorant gets plus 5,000 power. So with these skills is a good support card for the Dragonic Overlord the Cross. With the first skill, you can have a chance of adding the cross to your hand to ride with or to later use for any other reasons to have an additional grade 2 in your hand to use for. And the second skill of Ignorant, as long as you have a Vanguard that can attack multiple times like the Dragonic Overlords, and if you can manage to have 4 or less cards in hand requirement active, you can continue to stack the power to Ignorant, making him an effective front row attacker. The grade 2, Turret Cannon Dragon. His skill is, as a Vanguard or a rear guard, once per turn, by counterblasting 1 and sending a normal unit from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck, if the cost has been paid, you may retire one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards. After retiring, if you have 4 or less cards in hand, you may draw 1. So with Turret Cannon's skill, it's a good way to clear out your opponents with field of rear guards, slightly restock your deck with 1 card, and also to let you draw an extra card as long as you can keep the have 4 or less cards in hand requirement active. The grade 2, Prowling Dragon Striken. Its skills are, the first skill, as a Vanguard, it cannot attack. And the second skill, when ridden on top of by a grade 3, you may counterblast 1 if the cost has been paid. During your turn, your Vanguard gets plus 5,000 power, plus 1 critical, and you draw a card. Though while Striken as a Vanguard cannot attack himself, his second skill almost makes up for it, since as long as you have the counterblast to pay, you'll be able to give your grade 3 Vanguard that rides on top of him an extra power critical, and you get an extra card in your hand, making him a good card to use with your Vanguards that like to attack multiple times like the Dragonic Overlord series. So again, like I said, despite not being able to attack on his own, unless you play a deck that specializes in attacking multiple times with your Vanguard, this card is a good card to have as your Vanguard, if you manage to ride it as your grade 2. And with that, we just about covered the deck's grade 2 lineup. Next, let's get on to the grade 3 lineup. And now for the grade 3 lineup. For the grade 3s in this deck, we have 4. Dragonic Overlord, the Cross. 4. Dragonic Overlord, the Rebirth. And 2. Dragonic Overlord, the End. The grade 3, Dragonic Overlord, the Cross. One of the main grade 3s to ride in this deck. Its skills are, the first skill, as a Vanguard, once per turn by Soul Blasting 1. If the cost has been paid, you may search your deck for any Dragonic Overlord other than the Cross and add it to your Vanguard Soul. If you've done so, for that turn, your Vanguard the Cross receives the selected Overlord's name and skills. The second skill of the Cross, whenever your own card skills would count the number of cards in your hand will always be counted as 0 cards. And the third skill, as a Vanguard, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or higher, then your own Vanguard's drive check cannot be reduced to 0. So with the Cross, his first skill, with a mere Soul Blast of 1, you can have him inherit the names and skills of either Dragonic Overlord the Rebirth or Dragonic Overlord the End or any other Dragonic Overlord series card. And the second skill of the Cross, for cards that require you to count the number of cards in your hand, your hand will always be treated as 0, making it a good card to use with the grade 2s Ignorant Dragon and Turret Cannon Dragon, who both require you to have 4 or less cards in hand to use their skills. And the third skill of Dragonic Overlord the Cross, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or higher, then your Vanguard's drive check cannot be reduced to 0, making it a good card to use with Dragonic Overlord the End, whose restanding skills require you to do -1 drive for each, allowing you to at least have 1 drive check by the second or third attack. The grade 3, Dragonic Overlord the Rebirth, one of the other main grade 3s to run in this deck. Its skills are, the first skill, as a Vanguard, at the beginning of your battle phase, by locking all the rear guards on your field, your Vanguard gets a skill. When it attacks, you may counterblast 1 and discard 1 card from your hand. If the cost has been paid, you can stand your Vanguard. the second skill of Rebirth. When your Vanguard attacks, for every 2 locked cards you have in your field, by paying a mere Soul Blast of 1, you can retire up to 1 of your opponent's rear guards. So ideally, if you can gather at least 2 rear guards to lock in your field, you'll be able to at least retire 1 of your opponent's rear guards for a mere Soul Blast of 1. And the third skill of the Rebirth. As a Vanguard, once per turn, after attacking, if you have 4 or more damage and up to 5 locked cards in your field, then you may pay a cost of discarding 2 cards from your hand. If the cost has been paid, you may not only stand your Vanguard to Rebirth, but also give it an imaginary gift force. So with the Rebirth, it's more or less a powerful self-restander with 2 restanding skills of its own. With the first skill, as long as you can lock cards on your field, you can stand your Vanguard after 1 attack with a counter blast. And the second restand skill, as long as you manage to get 4 damage or more and have up to 5 locked rear guards, you'll be able to not only restand your Vanguard, but get another imaginary gift force to stack onto your Vanguard. And also with the second skill, the retiring skill, if you can gather at least 2 to 4 locked rear guards by Soul Blasting 1, you can retire at least 1 or 2 rear guards, making it a good way to clear out your opponent's field. And the best part is, this effect is reusable in the same turn, so since the Rebirth can attack 3 times with both its restanding skills, it's possible to wipe out your opponent's field of rear guards by being willing to pay for these Soul Blasts multiple times. The Grade 3, Dragonic Overlord the End. Its skills are: as a Vanguard, after attacking, you may choose one of the 2 effects to activate. The first effect: after attacking, if you have 4 or less cards in your hand, you may Counter Blast 1 or Soul Blast and Soul Blast 1. If you've done so, you may stand your Vanguard for the additional cost of minusing 1 drive check. And the second effect: if your soul has an Overlord, you may discard 3 cards from your hand. If the cost has been paid, you may stand your Vanguard plus 10,000 power, but at the additional cost of minusing 1 drive. So just like the Rebirth, the End specializes in restanding your Vanguard twice and attacking 3 times with your Overlord. So with that just was all the grade 3s in this deck. So next, let's get on to the trigger lineup. And now for the trigger lineup. For the triggers in this deck, we have 4 Angry Horned Dragons, critical triggers. 2 Embodiment of Spear Tars, critical triggers. 2 Dragon Knight Janats, critical triggers. 2 Wyvern Guard Paris, draw triggers. 2 Toxify Light Dragons, draw triggers. And 4 Dragon Dancer, Nastasha, heal triggers. The Grade 0, critical trigger, Dragon Knight Janat, crit Sentinel. So for Dragon Knight Janat, he's a Sentinel, like Perfect Guard, except he's a critical Sentinel, meaning on his own, he's a 30k shield, making him a excellent card to have if you are the type who uses a Vanguard, then it requires you to discard a number of cards from your hand, and if you do not have the usual hand cost for Perfect Guards, crit Sentinels like Janat are a good substitute, but though not absolute, still a pretty good card to have if you're the type who likes to guard with 1 card of your hand for high power attacks. The Grade 0, draw trigger, Wyvern Guard Paris. Like any other Perfect Guard in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, it features the same skill and activation. When used to guard with, you may discard 1 card from your hand. If the cost has been paid, then the attack that this unit is blocking is more or less stopped. The Grade 3, heal trigger, heal Guardian, Dragon Dancer Nastasha. Her skills are: the first skill, when used to guard with, and if you have not yet ridden to Grade 3 during the fight, you may activate one of 2 effects. The first effect, your Vanguard gets plus 10,000 power till the end of the turn. So with this first effect, it's a good way to stop your opponent from rushing you too early with multiple consecutive attacks from there by calling in a large number of units to attack you with. And the second effect, the attacking unit gets -2 critical till the end of the battle. So Like the first effect, it's a good way to stop your opponent from dealing you too much damage early in the game by reducing the attacking unit's critical down by 2 points. And the second skill of Nastasha, when called into the rear guard, if you have no cards in your damage zone, you may place the top card of your deck face up on your damage zone. So with the second skill, it's more or less a good way to stop opponents who like to use the damage denial strategy. The damage denial strategy is when an opponent purposely avoids attacking your Vanguard early in the game to prevent you from being able to activate any skills that require you to counterblast, thus stopping you from being able to use any of your main units while they only choose to hold back damage until the last minute when they know that they'll be able to finish you off. So overall, the grade 3 Dragon Desert Nastasha is a good card to have over the grade 0 heal triggers, which have 20k shield, since these two skills are a good makeup for the minus 5000 shield from the usual grade 0 heal triggers. And now, with that, we just about covered the deck's trigger lineup. For the triggers in this deck, we have 8 critical triggers, 4 draw triggers, and 4 heal triggers. And now, after having just explained the deck build and deck's card skills, next I get on to the deck's main playstyle. So for the main playstyle of this deck, usually just ride the normal ride line. Then for your grade 3 Vanguard, try to ride either Dragonic Overlord the Cross or Dragonic Overlord the Rebirth. And then the simple skill is just you have to try to fill out your front row and back row with enough rear guards. Then using the Rebirth skill to lock them all for multiple attacks from your Vanguard. As well as using the Rebirth skill to stack Imaginary Gift Force 1s. And to attack multiple times. So yeah, the Cross. So the main grade 3 to ride is either the Cross, who will inherit the Rebirth skill with its own skill, or to simply ride the Cross straight away and then pressure your opponent with powerful multiple Vanguard attacks by using the Rebirth standing skills, and also to stack more Imaginary Gift Force 1s into your Vanguard at every opportunity you can get, making your Vanguard a very powerful singular attacker at the cost of having no rear guards to attack with. And with that, I just about covered the deck's main playstyle. And with that, that's just about all the time we have for today. First off, I want to say thank you to the viewers for watching today's video, and to please stay tuned for more videos I plan to upload again in the near future. I also hope you all show your support by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to my videos and channel. And with that, I say goodbye and see you all soon.